Tikiman and the Viking podcast. Today from the Advanced Learning Library in downtown Wichita, Kansas during Riverfest and rain.
Please welcome the Viking.
I am author William Bryan Johnson, author of Hell to Pay, The Dark Cry of Ariston, and a couple other books hopefully floating around out there. And the Tiki Man.
And I am H.B. Burlow, author of the 4-book historical crime fiction series, The Ark City Confidential Chronicles, and a very soon-to-be-released new historical crime fiction series to be discussed at a later date.
Hey, this is a special episode.
This is a special episode. We're taking a time out to, we're both here on an event called Celebrate Writing. We were invited by a dear friend of ours, poet, teacher, April Pamatiski, who will hopefully be a guest on a podcast soon. And it's all about celebrating writers.
And what have we heard today?
We've heard poetry. What they did is they broke everything down to blocks and put like writers together. So the first block was largely poets. The second block that we were in included fiction writers, prose writers. There's still more. We had to break away from the entire event. This is great because it was part and parcel of what April and Mark Barlow had put together for the Advanced Learning Library, a writing workshop.
That's right.
To encourage and promote emerging writers.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the things I think about when we first started, what was some of the things we needed? Well, encouragement was one. The other thing was a platform that we could talk, because writers do not do well in a vacuum.
The thing is, when we met nearly 20 years ago, there wasn't quite as much in terms of the internet, social media, and getting together. You had to find places. You had to read about open mic nights, things of that nature.
We had to find conferences.
So that was important. So in this day and age, it is easy to bring writers together. Now, also here at the Advanced Learning Library in Wichita, Kansas, on August 12th, there will be the local Authors Day. Now, we hope to have this podcast episode out before that happens.
This is 2023.
Okay, well, this is also June. What day is this? June the 3rd of 2023. So we've got a couple of months to get this podcast episode out there, but that'll be great as well too. Now, it was held here last year after I think a 2 or 3 year absence
due to our friend COVID.
And what blew me away was seeing an entire room filled with local authors. It's amazing. Because you talk about, writing in a vacuum, existing in a vacuum as a writer, and then all of a sudden you're put in a room with 30, 40 different writers, and they had an overflow room. That's how big it was. Now, it could have been bigger because we were just coming out of COVID.
Right.
Granted. However, just that alone was fascinating. And it wasn't about selling. Yeah, you'd like to sell your books, but mingling with your friends, other writers who you haven't seen at that point for 3 years.
Yep.
And then, of course, meeting and talking to people like, oh, what do you write?
And finding new authors and finding people that write in the same genre and new friends.
And discussing what we like to discuss on this podcast, which is the craft of writing and the passion for writing. So this has been a wonderful event. Just to hear these, for me, and the old guy, talking about the young writers and seeing them and a sense of courage and bravery. It's not easy to get up on a stage in front of a microphone.
I hate microphones. I was actually nervous because I kept hearing myself in reverb, and I hate that.
You're more interesting in reverb.
I know.
Perhaps.
I'm deeper.
The thing is, these young people standing up there and reading and basically throwing caution to the wind, if you will. This is my stuff. I'm putting it out there. I talked to one young lady, Honeybee, who was so nervous beforehand, and she
did good.
She did really well and controlled. And we had a rehearsal for this event on Thursday, the Thursday before. This is Saturday now, and you could tell that some of them hadn't spruced up Within 2 days, these folks got their act together and read well. They had a handle on their own work and were able to present it.
Well, and Tikiman, this may come to a surprise to you, but a lot of writers I know are introverts.
Get out of here. Is that true?
I hate to say it, I've always called myself an introverted extrovert. Because I can go, I can sell, I can talk, depending on topic. But then there's a point I need to go find a dark corner and kind of recharge.
Writers around other writers do come out. Writers around people. When you have, like Local Authors Day, and people are coming up to the table, and you're sitting there, and you've got your water bottle, and you've got your books there on the table, and they say, well, what's your book about? And you go,
No, man, you just hit the hook in the elevator pitch. You got that memorized, don't you?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. At this point in my life, of course. But, I mean, it is difficult for a lot of people because they don't know how to talk about their work without it either being an essay, a dissertation,
right?
And getting to the meat of what your story is about. Okay, so, for example, your first book, Hell to Pay. Not the elevator pitch, but somebody comes up to the table, sees that really fascinating book cover and says, oh, Brian, what's this about?
Oh, I got to use the hook because that is the favorite hook I've ever written. A man who thinks he's losing his soul meets a man who has. Chills. I got chills.
Yeah. And that would do it from there. And that's what we're all looking for. And people don't realize that you need this hook in order to reach out to a publisher, an agent, an editor. They want to know the distilled essence of your story so that they're interested enough to sign you, promote you, whatever the case would be.
And unfortunately, due to the job they have, they usually have a attention span worse than most sixth graders right now. And it's not because, squirrel or butterflies or stuff like that. It's they are getting so many pitches at events or when people see them out at an author thing that they're overwhelmed. And so you gotta hit them with a very well-maintained hook, which maybe should be a future episode of ours.
We'll talk about that. Marketing and promotion is something that does scare the heck out of most writers.
I'm horrible at.
The only time I've had any success has been at writers' conferences because they tend to bring in agents, editors, publishers, and they're there. Those folks are there for a reason. They are looking, okay? If I were to, be with you and we saw a publisher in a restaurant that we were having dinner in and we went up to them, that would be freaky because they're there for dinner as well and they're not there to hear your pitch.
Yeah. Don't mess with Harrison Ford while he's in Wichita.
Exactly. And several people know not to as far as that goes. But yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, we'll probably have an episode like that. But also, when you get a chance to attend an event like this today, if you signed up to read, if you just decided you wanted to attend to hear some local writers read, when you find out that there's a local author day and it's in a lovely library and there's AC and there's some books you can take out or whatever, go. It's a fascinating time because you as the reader, the non-writer, will be blown away by, I didn't know there were this many writers in my community.
And I think it's good for people just to hit the library. Libraries have been hit with funding cuts and the questions of, do we even need libraries in today's world? And you and I are sitting here, I'm looking out at a bank of computers, we're in an AV lab, the classroom next to us is a technology teaching lab. Are you telling me we don't need libraries?
And for me, who looked up books through the Dewey Decimal System with card catalogs, I'm not afraid to come to this place. I'm amazed by it. And libraries have transformed from just a place where you take out books to a full-fledged learning location. This is called the Advanced Learning Library.
Right.
Look at and what the three words combined mean.
Well, and I'm sitting here looking at the studio, kind of wishing I had this set up. I mean, this is amazing. I may start coming here and doing other things.
Well, other podcasts, you mean?
Right.
Oh, right, fine.
Well, I mean, they have video suites. This gigantic computer right here has Photoshop and all the things that you would need for any photo editing. So, I mean, this is definitely a creator's paradise in here.
And that's what we appreciate. So we appreciate the opportunity to participate and celebrate writers. We're going to really appreciate the opportunity to be at Local Authors Day. And I hope that when we get this podcast put together and released, you all come out to see us. We'll announce that, of course. But this is great to be here. And yes, we may record from here more often because...
I like the setup.
Right, but I mean, they don't have food and beverages here like you do at your house.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was getting the evil eye bringing the cookie and my water in here, but I can see why now.
Don't bring cookies into the library.
Cookie monster.
Let us just remind you that Hell to Pay and the Dark Cry of Aristed by William Bryan Johnson and the 4 books of the Arc City Confidential Chronicles are all available on Amazon.com. We thank you again for listening. This has been amazing.
This has been a very special episode.
We'll talk to you again.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Tikiman and the Viking podcast is brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.